and it was around Halloween time. And we did a 5K, and Ryan wore the Flash costume, and he wore this big foam red and yellow suit with a mask. Like
the whole suit. I had a mask and everything.
And we all lined up at the start of the 5K, and boom, the race gun goes off. Ryan goes sprinting off, like sprinting. It's like Ryan is running a 100-meter dash, only we're running a 5K.
I mean, I did this as a joke.
And then he laughed, and then he stopped, and he waited for us. But so maybe that was a summary of your running style.
Yeah. This is Ryan and Michelle, and welcome to the Celebrate MarriageCast, where we hope to restore and reclaim godly marriages through honest and real conversations.
Welcome to episode 61. Thank you, listener. Thank you for investing in your relationship and listening today. We're so glad that you're joining us.
Yeah, Michelle, super excited today.
You are?
Yeah, first
Why?
off, I just want to say, hey, your hair looks spot on. Really nice.
Thank you. I was there for like 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
I got my hair cut and colored today.
Yeah. We were having this conversation about how different we are in that, you go get your hair cut and it's 3.5 hours.
Yeah, it's like a whole thing.
It's a whole production.
It's kind of relaxing. Read a book, had a coffee. They made me a coffee.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I am the exact opposite. I try to get my haircut done as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. You don't really like the small chat either.
Yeah,
small talk.
It's just,
Like, just cut my hair, get me out.
Yeah, the last time I was there, the lady that cut it was talking for like 15 minutes, and I was just sitting there.
Yeah. I did decide today that it is a special type of person, like, because for some people that fills their bucket. I don't think I could talk that much all day long. I would be exhausted coming home. But I was able to talk with her while she was, working on my hair. And that was fun. But I could not do that all day. That would be a lot of words.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, thank you for the compliment.
Yeah. Hey, it looks great.
Yeah. Ready for fall. We're doing some family photos on Friday, which we're excited about.
Yeah.
My mom is in the stage with her stage 4 breast cancer, and she's been wanting family photos for a long time. And we thought, it's late in the season, leaves have fallen, but we're just going to make it happen. So we're excited for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Michelle, I'm excited for our conversation today because we're talking about what is a vow.
What is a vow?
Right? You get married,
mm-hmm.
You say these vows to each other. There's a bunch of them.
Right. Some people write their own.
Yeah.
There's a standard one.
Right.
For richer, poorer, for sickness or health.
Right.
Till death do us.
Till death do us part. Right. You say
dun.
You say these vows, but what do they really mean? Like, what do they really mean to you? Because you get married and then life happens, right? Like we've discussed this. Life won't always be that happily ever after. It won't be, we say vows and everything just, it's not always going to be for better, for richer, for health.
I mean, by day 2, if not that same day of your wedding, you probably are already experiencing, some different, maybe there's a disagreement or maybe there's, whatever.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Sickness or
right. So we talk a lot in our church, in our home church here of Celebrate, about this idea of a vow or covenant versus like a membership.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me thinking, like, is your marriage like a gym membership? New gym comes to town, you sign up, you get all the perks that go along with it. It's super exciting.
The free gym bag and shirts. And I totally did that last year. All the hype. You're like, it's a cool place to be. I want to be there too. I'm gonna hop on over.
Right. Everything is awesome. Everything is new and so cool.
Yeah.
But then like month 2 hits, and you're like, I don't really feel like working out, or, this equipment doesn't quite,
Yeah. Yeah. Or you're there long enough to kind of see the other layers of it. And you're like, it's not really, as shiny and great as I thought or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm in the process right now of canceling memberships. I'm going through, and I've been very upfront with Ryan, and I did tell him what was it that I accidentally was subscribed to for an extra 6 months. LinkedIn Premium when I was looking for a job.
Yeah.
And then I just kept going. It was like $40 a month. And I was like, oh, Michelle, seriously? But it did help. It was helpful in my search process.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a membership for, just like different apps that you have, or I had a website. And then on that website, I feel like they kind of have it figured out, because I didn't just have the website subscription I needed to cancel, but then there was like the domain, and then there was a scheduling plugin that I had with that. And there was something else. There were like 4 things I had to cancel.
Yeah.
And I think I got them all. And then I realized the 4th one was still left. So I am on this mission to cancel these memberships, because in my eye, they don't serve me anymore.
Right.
But that's what makes a membership different than a vow. It's not disposable. It's not until it doesn't meet my need anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. I think, the memberships are out there and they're exciting right away. And then it's like, well, I don't really like this, or there's a better, deal over here, or whatever it is. And then it's just like, I'm going to quit that. I'm going to cancel that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Usually when you do that, you're not thinking about the other person. You're not like, well, how are they going to feel? It's mostly focused on your needs, your wants, your desires. I don't feel that this is working for me anymore. Right. I don't like this gym anymore. I don't like this, food store anymore. Costco.
I think we're the only ones that don't have a Costco membership.
We have never had one, you guys.
Yeah.
And I know that it's a thing.
Yeah.
And you guys, I personally feel like this could be a whole episode probably.
Yeah.
We'll probably get like letters or something. But I feel like we would just spend so much more money if we went there. I know they can save, and I know that their produce is great. And I know that they have there's like a crunchy Costco moms group, and they have healthy things too. But
so my issue is like, okay, I need like one onion. I don't need a 75-pound bag of onions.
That happened actually when I went for a tour with my friend Crystal. I was like, I need some potatoes. And there was like a giant, I don't even know how many pounds. It was so big. You guys, it was like, it was like all of Idaho's potatoes in one bag. It was so big. I'm like, I don't even know where
Nice.
What do you do with 100 potatoes? I mean, maybe you guys have like bigger cellar pantry type deals than we do. We have limited cupboard space.
Right.
They would just grow sprouts, and then they would be growing in our cupboard and
I don't know,
getting moldy. And
yeah.
Anyways, memberships.
So
versus vows.
Let's reel this in here. So this membership, Michelle, you hit it. It's it serves me, and it serves me now. But if something better comes along, then I'm going to quit that and go here. Where, when we look at a vow, when we look at a covenant, that really is a commitment. It's a lifelong commitment that doesn't change. That doesn't, it's not just easily, I'm going to cancel this and go over here.
Yeah. What does a vow mean? What does a vow mean to you? Maybe we should define that.
Yeah.
What is a vow? Should we look that up?
Yeah.
Dictionary.com. Do you have your phone handy?
Dictionary.com.
Or just Google. You can.
Or just Google it. Sorry, we're making a bit of a turn right here.
Well, I just thought we should start with the definition of it, because we use that term, but maybe we should just start by defining it. And for our listener, what does it mean to you? What is a vow? Is it like a promise? Is it a declaration? Maybe think about your own wedding vows. Have you thought about them up until this day? Maybe you set it at your wedding day and you haven't really given it thought.
Yeah. Yeah. To promise solemnly, to swear, bind, or consecrate.
I love that. Will you read that one more time?
Yeah. To promise solemnly, swear, to bind, or consecrate.
To bind and consecrate. Yeah, you think of it, actually, the image of God's plan for like a wedding, and that is like a consecrating of man and woman. The two shall become one flesh. They are coming together, consecrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A vow remains. And that's kind of what we want to speak into today, is that concept of remaining. And it really kind of focuses around two two specific topics that we kind of want to jump into, but just this difference, this idea of remaining versus running.
That's biblical too. Christ says, remain in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Michelle, if you want to introduce the first topic here.
Yeah. So first thing here is remembering that any major accomplishment requires something of you. So maybe think of your own life here, right? The hardest things in your life often have the biggest reward. So we have shared that we have ran numerous marathons, half marathons, a ton of effort going in, a ton of training, a ton of, what foods are we eating? What are we nourishing our bodies with? Lots of long runs, short runs, following a rigid schedule and being prepared for that. The other thing that came into my mind here is like birthing a child into the world.
Yeah.
You prepare a long time for that, but you do things along the way too. You might read books, you might be getting things ready. Even the labor process is is a really big effort.
Yeah.
But at the other side of it, it's actually a little bit painful too, but at the other side of it is such a great reward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm trying to think what other examples can you think of?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you look at any like major accomplishment, I gravitate towards sports where, any
like winning a national championship or something.
I think anytime let's say a team wins a championship, there's sacrifices that are made. There's work. There's things that put in. I mean, you look at a season. Let's look at a football season, right? I mean, you start in the summer, with practice, there's all these practices that go in. It requires something of you.
Yeah.
You don't just show up and win a championship.
Right.
It's going to be difficult.
Right.
There's time in the weight room. There's time learning plays. There's all of these things that go into winning a championship.
Things that people will never see.
Right.
Like a lot of that the public never sees. They never see the alarm going off at 4 a.m. They never see them driving to the gym in the dark. They don't see how they eat and how they prepare and all of that too.
Right.
I think we have a couple of people within our church family that do bodybuilding competitions. And I think of that too. Like that's months of, work, and it's kind of the same line, healthy eating, working out, regimens. I'm thinking, Andre does competitions. I'm thinking of Lily, does competitions, and it's incredible to watch them through those preparation pathways. And or even think too, like any new skill that a person's ever learned. We have this beautiful, you guys can't see it on camera, we have this beautiful artwork from Jared Emerson in our studio here. It's a lion and it's also Jesus. And it's just, he actually painted it by hand. But think of any new skill or like, whether it's painting or a musical instrument. If you've ever had a kid play a musical instrument, even the recorder, the day one they pick it up is not necessarily pleasant, or it doesn't sound like a song or a masterpiece, but it's lots of little daily efforts, lots of things going into that.
Yeah. I mean, think of this though, in relation to your marriage, right? Like you want to have a championship marriage, a championship relationship, right? It's going to require something of you, and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be just, hey, we showed up to the day, we set our vows, boom. It's going to be smooth sailing from this point on. It's going to require that extra effort.
Do you think people underestimate that when they say the vows? Do you think they know the magnitude that is really going to be required to go into that? Like, it just feels like such a nice thing to say, even if we go back to those standard ones, to have and hold, to love and cherish, health and sickness, rich or poor. Do you think that's part of the problem? People don't realize that doesn't just happen. Those are really great words to say. I love the vow part of the ceremony, because it is like, that is your promise. But really to realize that takes work. Those things don't just happen.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. I think it's looking at it as like, oh yeah, that's nice to say.
Yeah.
But I think encouraging, like, just really, truly look at the vows that you said and the work that's required of it.
Yeah. Ryan, when I was thinking about this episode and vows, and I was in my own head, I was defining, even without looking it up, this is a promise. A vow is really a promise that you are giving to your spouse. And I don't know if you have thought about this in this context for a listener, but the Bible is full of God's promises.
Yeah.
One of the first examples that probably pops in your head is a rainbow. A rainbow is God's promise never to flood the earth again. At the end of that, a rainbow appeared in the sky, and that was his promise, right? It's just a really visible, tangible, I guess you can't really like touch it, but it's a really visible, physical example of God's promise. But if you read a paper copy, and actually on the Bible app has it too, the little, like the footnotes, the little letters or numbers as you read your Bible, it often will link back. If you're reading, for example, the New Testament, it will link back to where that was kind of prophesied in the Old Testament. And it actually shows you how God is fulfilling his vows. So I thought it would be kind of cool just to read an example of that so people can see, like, God is God of promises, and he didn't give up on us.
Yeah.
He stuck it through. And so, so this is from Mark 1, and this is from, I'll just start at the beginning. So the beginning of the gospel about Jesus Christ, the Son of God, is written in Isaiah the prophet. So you can already guess where we're going to link back to. It is written in Isaiah the prophet, I will send my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way. A voice of one calling in the desert, prepare the way for the Lord, make straight paths for him. And that links back to Malachi and Isaiah. I'm just going to read back in Isaiah here. And this is Isaiah 40, verse 3. And it says, a voice of one calling in the desert, prepare the way for the Lord. Make straight in the wilderness a highway for our God. So like the verbiage is almost like the same, the straight paths, make a way. So just a really cool example of something that was prophesied came to fruition, and just an example of the many vows that God has made in the Bible. God is a God of vows and keeping his word and keeping his promises.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool as we dig into this here. So, so point number 1, remember that any major accomplishment requires something of you. Vows take work, but we also know that God has shown many examples in the Bible that he is a faithful God of promises, and he is a keeper of his word.
Yeah.
So he's not giving up on us.
Yeah. The other thing, Michelle, is the first is that it's going to require something. Mm-hmm. 2, I think the other thing that is super important, we've kind of built on this over the last couple of weeks too, is that mistakes are going to be made along the way. Like, there are things that are going to happen, and that's where this concept of forgiveness comes in. Look, you are going to say dumb things. You're going to make dumb mistakes in your marriage, but it's really important on how quickly you can ask for forgiveness. Part of I say this all the time, and part of it is I think very differently than you, Michelle. Mm-hmm. I mean, I tend to think really sometimes black and white, very analytical. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes when I answer, right, it's not what you need to hear, right? Because you're feeling an emotion, and I'm just like, yep, just do this. Right. And I completely buy it. So you're going to do dumb things. And it's going to happen. But how quickly are you willing to forgive? I love a couple weeks ago when Roger Gibson was here, and he was talking about how he had this anger in his heart, mm-hmm. and how he needed to forgive his brother-in-law. And it actually took him to the hospital.
Yeah, he thought he was having a heart attack.
He thought he was having a heart attack, but it was really just this anger, this callousness that builds up. And I think, unfortunately, it happens in a lot of marriages, in a lot of relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. Whether that was induced by something in your marriage or outside, I do think that a lot of people carry anger. And that in Roger's case, the doctor said, I think you're dealing with anger. Yeah. And he didn't even know him
right.
other than like doing the heart eval. Yeah. He was like, oh my gosh, wow, this is that obvious. But I think a lot of people carry that around, and that impacts every facet of their life.
Yeah, and oftentimes, I mean, it's like we like totally understand there are big things that can happen in marriage, and I think that's where, you know, having a counselor, a pastor to walk you through those things.
Yeah, we don't want to breeze over it. There are big things that happen, and you need a professional to help guide you through that.
Absolutely. You know, but what we see a lot is it's these small things that just build and build and build. You know, we often joke about our communication and how, but it's something we know we have to continually work on.
Right.
And it's going to require some forgiveness along the way.
Because when you allow that drift to happen, that's when you both emotionally, physically, in every sense of the way, you do start to drift.
Right.
And it's just like, you know, you hear this a lot in the church world, like pick up your cross daily, die to self, but also like just continuing to work on that. Like it does take some dying of self to go back and be like, okay, I know we have this issue, but let's resolve it. Because every hour, every day that you're pushing away, you're creating space that is more and more difficult to like then mend and draw back closer. Yeah. But it does take that intentionality.
Yeah. I mean, I think.
So I like that quick to forgive.
Yeah. I mean, I think going back to our running example, like when I first started running, I was the worst at running because like I didn't know what I was doing.
I didn't know you when you started running.
Yeah. Like so like this is talking about mistakes being made along the way. Okay. I'm not a natural runner. So like my whole philosophy was I'm going to run as fast as I can for as far as I can.
Ha. I have a great story to tell the listeners.
Yeah. You got one?
Well, when we did meet, a lot of our dates are running dates, and it was around Halloween time. And we did a 5K, and Ryan wore the Flash costume. The Flash is a superhero.
Yeah.
Is he
super fast?
Marvel?
No, he's DC.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Just
that's
sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, we're a big Marvel family, so I just thought maybe it was okay. Sorry if I offended anyone. The Flash.
Yeah.
He's very fast.
Yeah.
He has like a lightning bolt on his costume.
Yeah.
And you wore this big foam red and yellow suit
like
with a mask.
Like the whole suit. I had a mask and everything.
I think it was Supergirl or some other Superwoman. But so, you know, my other friends were like Batgirl and Superwoman and all these like characters. And we all lined up at the start of the 5K and boom, the race gun goes off. Ryan goes sprinting off, like sprinting. It's like Ryan is running a 100-meter dash, only we're running a 5K.
Yeah.
And he just like sprints ahead of the whole group of people.
Yeah. I mean, I did this as a joke.
And then you laughed and then you stopped and you waited for us. But so maybe that was a summary of your running style.
Yeah. So, you know, I made a lot of mistakes in this because like obviously when you're running a far distance, that's not the best strategy to have. So, you know, part of it is I made mistakes. There was also the time that I decided to have a big steak dinner before the race. Also, not the best choice to make when you're running.
I remember that. Was that Dallas?
I don't know.
Somewhere.
Yeah, I was in Texas. So I'm like, oh, hey,
gotta
like,
have a steak.
We got to have a steak. But that wasn't the best idea. So, like, you're going to make some mistakes along the way. Are you quick to forgive? Right? And are you willing to learn and pivot?
Yeah. I love that. Did you learn from that lesson?
Oh, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I'm not going to go into detail other than it was horrible. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, we made it through the race.
Yeah, made it through.
So I think, can you think of examples in our relationship then when we've pivoted?
I think the communication I think has been a big thing where we could have continued down a path of constantly butting heads.
Yeah.
Because our styles are so different.
Yeah.
And that's a spot where we've learned, we made mistakes along the way that had we not pivoted, I think we would continue to argue.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Ryan, in that we made an intentional decision that we were not going to allow that communication style to define our relationship or define our marriage. And you're right. I think that we could have continued to butt heads.
Yeah.
And because you're analytical and I come to you with my feelings, that would just set a cycle in motion. Yeah. And if allowed, what would that have caused? Anger, frustration, eventually drift, and just like animosity, really, which when you have those seeds planting into your relationship and growing and you give Satan a foothold to get in, you're right. I think that it could have been really dangerous for our marriage.
Yeah.
But we made that decision not to allow that one argument, that one disagreement to become a day, a week, a month, communication style.
Yeah.
So there was a sermon a couple of weeks ago, and it was like, keep moving. If you feel right now like your relationship is stuck, because we get that there's a variety of things that, people might be going through. It might feel impossible. You might feel like you're stuck. You might feel like you've drifted. Get back into action.
Yeah.
And whatever that is, if it's going to a therapist, if it's starting to go to church again, if it's listening to more of these, having your spouse listen, having dialogue about it, but just deciding in your head that you've made a promise and you're going to keep it, and then working on you, but also then seeing what God will do, right? If you're working on yourself and you're going to God and you're growing, your spouse is doing that too. Like he wants your vows to come to fruition. Yeah. He wants it.
Yeah.
He wants it most.
Yeah. Yeah. But and Michelle, I think you hit on this. It's, what lens are you viewing it through? Is your marriage a membership? Or is it a covenant, a vow, a promise that you have made that you are going to keep?
Yeah.
Because that really is, and that's why we want to talk about this, because that changes everything. Because if you are willing to put in the work and you're putting in the work, you realize that mistakes are made. There's no perfect marriage. I think you need to dispel that like instantly.
Or perfect people.
Right. And it's
and you might think your spouse has faults, but you also need to look in the mirror and see that you have some too.
Right. And so like it's not ever going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But I think if you can continue to put in the work, continue to make, you're going to make mistakes, be quick to forgive and look at it through the lens of, hey, we're going to keep going because we made these vows. These vows matter. We made them to each other. We made them to God. Mm-hmm. And we're going to keep going. I think it makes that pivot easier.
Yeah.
Not in like the action, but it makes it willing to, hey, I'm sick of butting heads. What do we need to do differently? Because we've made these vows to each other and we want to keep them. So what do we need to do differently? And having that conversation because you're seeing it through the lens of a vow.
Yeah. And maybe it's time for you to do a vow renewal.
Yeah.
Ryan and I did one for our 5-year anniversary. We just celebrated 13 years. We're going on year 14. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time for you to do a vow renewal and just renew them and declare in front of each other and God and your friends that, hey, we're seeing this through. Like, we made a promise and we're going to stand on that.
Yeah. That would be so amazing to see. It's just like this wave of people that, regardless of what year you're in, what day, it doesn't even matter, but just saying, hey, let's renew our vows. Because, and even admit, have a repentant heart and say, I've looked at this as a membership, about what I can get out of it. I want to renew this as a vow today. Like, that would be so cool to see, just like this wave of people saying, hey, we're recommitting, or we are committing to these vows today.
What a gift that would be to hear those stories. And Ryan, we have heard some really cool stories over the past few weeks of people listening and reaching out to the church, just saying like, hey, this resonates so much. And this podcast is just making such a difference in my relationship, and it's given me hope. And man, those stories are so cool.
Yeah.
Like, I just get goosebumps because I think like these are not just people that we don't know. These are real people and real marriages. And I mean, it's impacting them.
Yeah.
So yeah, so cool. I love that. We would love to hear if you do a vow renewal.
Yeah.
Tag us or let us know somehow. That would be so cool. So Ryan, any parting thoughts for the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, I think really just keep in mind those 2 points. That anything worthwhile, any success, it's going to take something from you. It's going to require something from you. And then realizing mistakes are going to be made, be quick to forgive, pivot, find something different, find a different solution.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, even from like we didn't give this example, but comparing it to your work too, most people can latch onto that concept of, if you want to move in your career, it's going to take work. Well, if you want your marriage to grow, it's going to take work too. It does not come easy, and you have to be flexible and adaptable at work. Why would you not be able to do that at home? Then, do
Absolutely.
that. You're capable of it. Mm-hmm. Do it at home too. So, such a great show, Ryan.
Yeah.
Great points there. And thank you to our listener for joining us today. A vow is a vow. There you have it. We hope that you have a wonderful week. You can find us at Celebrate.church/marriage. If you don't have a church home, you can tune in at Celebrate.church. Also, you can text us if you want to send us, an update that you have a vow renewal, or if you have a question for us, you can send that to 605-951-0110. You also can send in a mystery question, which I realized we totally forgot to do, so we will get that in the next show. But we would love to hear your questions and answer those on the show as well. And we are on Instagram at Celebrate MarriageCast. Thank you and have a great week.
Have a great week.